On this week's Motor Week, we show you how to do a proper car test with the smart car. Glenda McKay takes another close look at the Ford Mondeo, but first Richard Hammond drives the awesome Aston Martin DB7.
If it were any more British, it would be made of tweed and have a handlebar moustache on the front. The Aston Martin DB7 Vantage Volante, a very, very big car with a very big pedigree. Now yes, I know I've got an Aston Martin, and yes, I know there's a great big dam behind me, but no, I'm not doing any James Bond Aston Martin gags, okay? They've all been done before, so I promise it's cheesy and I won't do any. Not one. None. Fantastic. Pretty much everything about the Aston is enormous, not just the length and the girth of the thing, but the engine, 6-litre V12, over 400 brake horsepower, 6-speed gearbox, all big numbers. The only thing that isn't big, not big enough in fact, is the steering wheel. It's pathetic. I want something up here, a great big wooden rim monster of a thing you could steer a ship by. Astons have never been lightweight. I suppose all those years ago, whilst Jim Clark was frantically paring every last ounce off the chassis of his Lotus to make him go quicker, the folks at Aston's must have just la 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 la, or maybe they just revved one of their engines so they couldn't hear him. But hold on, got a bit of a problem here though. Soft top. It's not proper at all. Frankly, it's for girls. I mean, the playing fields of Eton didn't make us frightfully brave just so we can mince around in a giant hairdresser's chariot, did they? Some cars, really vulgar cars, suit having the top chopped. And then others, well, you might as well, because they're never going to be monsters to drive anyway. But an Aston Martin, well, it just doesn't seem right somehow. So enough of this wanton decadence, enough of this, frankly, continental display. I'm going to be sensible, like you should. And anyway, it looks like rain. Ah, that's much more like it. Now in this hushed environment, you can soak up the ambience of what demands to be called a cockpit. Walnut and leather. Breathe it in. If this were mine, which it is now because I'm not giving it back, I'd be smoking cigars in it just to make it smell proper and as it should. Whilst the looks are never ever going to disappoint, your heart will flutter every time you walk up to this thing. The drive though, yeah. Something to do with taking the top off, methinks. It's a bit like strapping a 6-litre V12 to one end of your bed and expecting it to go around corners nicely. It don't shake, rattle and roll, I'm afraid. That said, the sound of that V12 is very nice indeed. And it does romp along merry. There's a huge surge of mid-range, as you would expect there to be. It's just a long way from being pin-sharp and responsive. Of course, if you fancy it, you are going to need to be seriously minted. I mean, well wedged up. £102,000. Let me put it this way, you can have this car, or you could have all of these. Isn't it funny how some £100,000 cars encourage you to waft about waving regally, whilst others, Ferraris and such, tend to lead to rampant posing with rolling up of sports jacket sleeves and greasing of hair. But the Aston Martin, well, it's different. It's more about hooliganing about. It's just a giant automotive two-fingered salute to just about everyone, really. Let's go.
A step-by-step guide to the perfect car test. Step 1, you need a fantastic location. Step 2, your presenter has got to shout all the time. Step 3, add some driving rock. Then all that's left to do is introduce the car by saying, take a look at this. But we're not going to do any of that today, because at Men at Motors we appreciate that there's more to life than rock music and lovely sports cars. Now, a company that shares that view is Smart. Oh, and don't worry, it's not going to blow away. And yes, I can fit in it. Oh, go on then, you know you want to. Now, it's not that long ago that you'd have been more likely to see a Lamborghini parked up at your local supermarket than one of these smart cars. But over the last 2 years, they've grown from being an obscure grey import to a highly popular inner-city mover, much to the delight of Daimler Chrysler, the owners and now official importers of the Smart. So why, I hear you asking, is something that looks like a Kinder Egg toy selling so well? Let me explain. Okie dokie. Starting with the size of this thing. Now, it's important to note that I'm 6'4". Now, the BMW 750iL was just about right for me, but it's 76.5 grand. It should have been, but you will be stunned just how much head and legroom there is in this little smart car, and it's very, very comfortable and very well put together. Plus, you get a little bit of space in the back for all your bits and pieces. Very nice. From any angle, the Smart looks different, and it's those unique looks that are going to make you fall in love with it. And don't forget that if you get bored of the colour, for 600 quid you can buy different body panels. Prices start at £5,700 and go up to just over 9 grand for the convertible. Oh, a little too smart maybe. Now, behind me is a 3-cylinder 600cc engine producing not very much in the way of emissions, but not a great deal more when it comes to horsepower, 55 to be precise. But because the Smart car's so light at only 720 kilograms, well, it's enough to make acceleration feel really lively, and you'll actually beat most cars away from the lights. Well, for the first couple of seconds anyway. Now, top speed on the Smart car is limited to 85 miles an hour, but once again it's a case of don't knock it till you've tried it, because on the motorway you'll be really impressed at just how stable this car feels. And although it gets quite noisy, it does make you feel that you're driving a much bigger car. Until a wagon tries to overtake it or the wind picks up, because then you need to reach for the emergency Smart buffering kit, aka the toilet roll. But it's worth the experience just to see the look on the drivers' faces that you do overtake. Now, we know the engine on the Smart car is environmentally friendly, but another green feature is the fact that the whole car itself is 85% recyclable. It's pretty much a metal frame with polycarbonate body panels, which incidentally are interchangeable if you want a different colour. But what that means is in 30 or 40 years, we're not going to have scrapyards piled high with mountains of rust in Smart cars. But whatever it's made of, you've got to admit, it looks pretty good. Now, one thing that does wind me up about this car is the gearbox. It's one of those automatic stroke semi-automatic units which work great in big cars, but something this size, well, it drives you mad. Put your foot down to change gear or switch it manually and the delay is enormous. It's as if the gearbox has become Hugh Grant. You want me to change gear? What, now? Oh gosh, yeah, fine. And then it finally does it. No, ditch that, stick a normal clutch pedal in here and you're laughing. Well, I've got to say, I'm absolutely in love with this car, dodgy gearbox and all. But the big question is, could I live with it all year round? I've only had it a week, remember. And to be honest, I don't think so. I think it's a little bit too different, but the same goes for these things. Certainly not run-of-the-mill. So I think for me, I better go and practice my shouting and polish my cowboy boots. Let's rock.
The great British summertime. Boring cricket matches, curled up cucumber sandwiches, wind and usually no shortage of rain either. Oh, and a long-standing love affair with small, compact two-seater roadsters in which to explore those country roads. Mazda rekindled that love affair 10 years ago now with the arrival of the original MX5. And this, the MX5 Icon, is a special edition to celebrate that. At nearly £20,000, it's £2,000 more than a standard MX5 with a 1.8 engine. So what are we getting for our extra Spondulix? A part that is from a decidedly dodgy colour. It's hardly inspiring for a party, is it? Purple. Years, eh? A decade and barely a wrinkle to show for it. This new shape MX5 in fact arrived a couple of years ago and it got rid of the previous one's pop-up headlights in favour of these fared-in items and added a few extra curves and bulges. The result? Well, it just looks a little bit more grown up. In its 10 years, the handling of the MX5 certainly hasn't suffered. In fact, it's got steadily better to now be, well, quite a nippy little thing. It feels quite refined but subtle and sporty. The ride on this Icon Special Edition has been tweaked through the suspension, so it does feel quite firm and solid. You know you're in a little sports car. The more you drive it, the more you realise that 1.8 really is lacking in power, particularly in the mid-range. But that is definitely not the idea. You don't need huge reserves of oomph. Just get enough speed up and enjoy bowling along. Rear-wheel drive, of course, is the only way to go if you're going to be a proper two-seater roadster, and the MX5 does just that. It's quite happy to shake its tail free, though, if you're a little too eager with the right pedal in the corners. MX5s have always been quite a nice place to be. The cabin has a well-finished, understated feel to it, which is very pleasant. You don't feel there's anything gizmo or gimmicky about it. It all feels pretty purposeful and quite grown up for a small car. For a car that harks back to the likes of creaky old MGs and Spitfires, the MX5 Icon is pretty luxurious and sophisticated. But is that what it's really all about? Nearly £20,000 for a little two-seater roadster seems like a heck of a lot of money. Admittedly, the MX5 has in its 10 years achieved a cult-like status, and perhaps for those who've owned a whole string of them, this is the ultimate. But for anybody looking to buy their first small two-seater roadster, I'd say maybe you should think about going a little further back to basics. Ooh, this is going to be a bloody one. So the hot hatches bicker amongst themselves as to who can shave an extra tenth of a second off the 0 to 60 time. And the big luxury barges bicker of the benefits of sat nav over a seat massager. But this is where the real battle takes place. Here between these middle-class, mid-range, middle-lane motorway mile munchers. Both Reps chariots, and both from manufacturers hungry for your tick in the box next to their motor on the company car lists. So we have the BMW 318 SE, and facing up to it, still fresh and youthful, the new Mercedes C180, both only a couple of steps up from cooking versions of the basic cars. Mercedes are after BMW's championship belt, and they look like they mean business. They both look great. Both are hand-carved from one lump of granite and will last thousands of years. Mileages to raise the eyebrow of a spaceship captain will be perfectly achievable without anything ever going wrong. Well, more or less. But we've got to choose between them, so let battle commence. Mercedes used to have a reputation for being incredibly incredibly mean. It was all you could do to get a key fob out of them when you bought what is still an expensive car. Now though they've addressed that, and clearly they've been tracking BMW with this, the C-Class, because the spec is very similar. In this fairly basic version, we get pretty much everything you need as standard. I've got a multi-function steering wheel that allows me to control the telephone and the radio and bits and pieces like that. A fairly elaborate and clever automatic climate control. Cruise control is standard. They have their stability control system to keep things on the straight and narrow. And so to the BMW 318, where we get, oh look, cruise control and automatic climate control and elaborate stereo. It does feel sharp and eager, but it doesn't exactly feel exciting. In this lesser powered version, it feels perhaps a little bit numb. The gearbox isn't exactly exhilarating. We've only got 5 speeds as opposed to the 6 in the Mercedes C-Class. It probably doesn't feel as sharp as the BMW. Mercedes seldom do. But considering it is a small Mercedes, it is a huge improvement on old ones and still a good car to drive. The huge discounts given to big corporate buyers are, of course, denied the humble private buyer, but that's another story. The result is that though margins may be squeezed to the bone, the numbers sold are huge. For what it's worth, not that many people will be digging into their own pockets to buy these things, the BMW costs £20,130 in this form. Bear in mind it is slightly better equipped than the Mercedes C180 Classic, which chips in at a slightly more weighty £20,740, both on the road. The BMW is still excellent. It looks great, it's still good to drive, it's got everything you need on board. The problem is, quite a lot of people seem to agree with you, and the old blue and white propeller badge is in danger of becoming a victim of its own success. They made them so good, everybody bought the things, and now, well, in some parts of the world, they could be seen as a little bit common. Oh dear. Whereas the Mercedes, well, that's an entirely different prospect. Pitching up for your 4 o'clock in Wigan, peering at the world through the 3-pointed star at the end of the bonnet might just help you stand out from the crowd a little. Sure, it's not ultimately as fast and sharp handling as the BMW, but the payoff is less crashing suspension and a far more comfortable ride. $500,000 BMW 3 Series was sold a couple of years ago in 1999. That's a lot. Now, it might deny you any chances of exclusivity, but it is an indication that BMW must be doing something right. With their new C-Class, Mercedes want those sales. If not all of them, then quite a lot of them. And they deserve them. We'll see what happens.
The first Mondeo was a milestone for Ford, finally raising the company's game as a driver's car and taking it to the top of the class in the process. The only blot on the copybook was a less than sparkling reputation for warranty claims in the early cars, all a distant memory now. Since then, VW breezed in with their Audi A4-based Passat, hiking the quality of the class, so it's not surprising that Ford used the Passat as a benchmark for the new Mondeo. While the outside is undoubtedly evolutionary, a Germanic solidity has been added to the lines. Unfortunately, it looks a bit bland straight out of the box, so will it manage to stay fresh for a 6-year model lifetime? Now inside, it's clear to see just how impressed Ford were with the rival. The fascia design has striking resemblances to the Audi and the VW. The quality of the materials used and the switchgear is superb. Now this is the gear spec, so we've got these rather lovely and very supportive leather seats and this superb fake wood trim, which lets the side down just a little bit. Now, creature comforts include this great sunroof and air conditioning for the summer and seat warmers for the winter. But what Ford excel at absolutely is what the designers call surprise and delight features, such as this rather nifty cup holder. Now they're just showing off, aren't they? Moving off, you notice just how much the company have been working to improve on the old model by just how little there is to notice. the engine noise is subdued, wind and road noise is muted. Perfect for putting on those miles. The ride feels firm at first, but then you realise that bumps you normally feel on familiar roads are being dispatched without the normal drama. Yet the handling inspires a great deal of confidence. And we're not talking about fast hatch stuff here. There's a lot more mass to haul around, but it eclipses most in the class with gentle understeer at the upper limits. The biggest disappointment is the engine, and that's not because it's particularly unpleasant or harsh, it's just because the handling on the ride leave you expecting an effortless performance to match. This 2-litre Z-Tech engine has its performance blunted by the mass it's got to haul, the price of all that solidity and composure. Surely the 2.5-litre Duratec V6 would have been a better companion for this gear. Across the range, there's been some useful improvements on the older generation Mondeos. Exterior measurements have moved out a smidge in all directions. In the back, we've got some useful extra legroom, which matches a very well laid out driving position. And in the boot, plenty of room for your luggage. Prices are in line with the opposition, but this gear model weighs in at a substantial £19,395. So, the new Mondeo propels itself past the current Passat and to the top of its class. And although the Volkswagen beats it just on build quality, this car is so much more fun to drive. So I guess it depends on what kind of car you're looking for. If you're looking for luxury and comfort, go for the Passat. If you want performance and good handling, this is the baby for you.
On next week's Motor Week, we have a special feature, giving the whole programme over to probably the most famous car in the world, the Mini.